When I heard D.Gray-Man was finally getting another season after the 8-year hiatus, I was really excited, and one of the things I was most excited for was the opening. D.Gray-Man's always had fabulous openings. All 4 of them are fairly high on my favorites list, from the gorgeous songs to the fun animation. They're just a joy to watch, special favorites being the 3rd and 4th by Access and Uberworld respectively. So I was really hyped for this new opening, and so were a lot of fans, and it had a lot to live up to, considering the competition. But at this point, it's safe to say that D.Gray-Man Hallow's opening is the best D.Gray-Man opening to date. Now that isn't because of the song, not to say the song isn't great. Key, Bring It On My Destiny, yeah that's really a mouthful to say, is a really good song, or at any rate, I at least really enjoy it. Its beat and tempo fit the rhythm of the story as well as the rhythm of the animation, and the whole thing just sets itself up in a nice little package from that first swell at the beginning to the gorgeous notes of the chorus. But that's not where the best part of this opening lies. Oh no, that rests squarely with the animation. Honestly, while I love this opening, I still like the songs for 3 and 4 better, but again, the animation. The animation for this just blows it out of the park, and I'm not just talking with the new and more fluid animation from 2016 replacing the 2008 designs. Yes, the animation is really pretty, but that's not what makes this opening. What makes it is the amount of stellar visual storytelling that it engages in. The narrative of the story in the opening is by far at its strongest during the 4 main character opening shots, those for Lavi, Kanda, Alan, and Lena Lee. However, I also really loved the first and last parts of the opening, but I'll get to those at the end. Now, D.Gray-Man Hallow aired a full 8 years after the original series ended, meaning that the people who were directing the show knew that they would have to do a lot of recapping. So rather than taking up the first couple of episodes with mountains of pointless exposition for anyone who did remember, they put in only a couple of minutes of it in episode 1 and saved the rest of the recap for the opening. Something which I honestly think is quite clever. I also really love seeing the old scenes reanimated with the new art style. But these 4 introductory clips of the main characters are a lot more than the old scenes pasted together with a picture of the characters pasted on top of them. Each one is a beautiful and well thought out narration of that character's past, their personality, and their future, all wrapped up into a few seconds. Let's start with Alan. The first shot of Alan shows Alan staring at his hand, his innocence, surrounded on one side by himself with the Akuma arm out in his first showdown against the Millennium Earl, while the other side shows Cross coming up to Alan by Mana's grave, offering him a chance to become an exorcist. Now, clearly these 2 shots obviously represent both his dark past and his defiance as he fights the Earl, but there's a lot more than that going on. For one thing, the Alan in the middle is translucent, meaning that the gravestones are visible through him, showing how Mana's death has haunted him and still drives him today. In addition, Alan looks at his hand, his innocence, questioning it and the reasons behind it, as he begins to learn the truth about himself and question everything he once thought so sure. Additionally, the way in which his hand is raised casts a shadow on the Alan with the activated innocence's face, turning that face half gray, representing his more, well, Noah-ish tendencies. The image on the left is quickly replaced by a picture of Alan defeated after his arm has been shattered by Tiki, burying himself in defeat and despair, but the right image is also replaced by Crown Clown, showing that he's gotten this far by overcoming the adversities he's been facing, overcoming his sorrow at Mana's death by becoming an exorcist, overcoming his defeat by Tiki by unleashing Crown Clown for the first time. The image on the left is then replaced by Alan in the Room of the 14th, playing the 14th melody, and fighting with the ideas that Mana and him might not have just been a child and a clown, but rather something more. At this point, Alan begins to turn to his left, closing his fist and looking forward. So when the final image of him being unable to defeat the level 4 and protect the people he cares about shows up on the screen, Alan has already turned away from it and toward the 14th melody, showing his determination to press on and keep walking, regardless of what challenges he may face because of the 14th. Kanda starts out observing as he watches battle after battle pass before his eyes, all of his life summed up in his fights for the Order. It also shows how his life has never truly been his own. Finally, Kanda turns aside so that the audience can only see him in profile, showing him turning away from the Order as his hatred for it is revealed. while the final shot that zooms in on his face gives the audience a feel for his snarky personality, as well as for the disgust he feels toward the Order. In contrast to Kanda, Lavi starts out only visible in profile, indicating his job as a bookman to be nothing more than a passive observer rather than a maker of history. The first image of him fighting all the way on the right shows his abortive fight with Crowry's flowers. While it is his canon introduction, it's far from a serious battle, and the fact that Lavi is introduced this way shows his outwardly light and comedic nature. The first couple of shots all help to reinforce this, but then we get to the shot of Lavi trapped in Rhodes' dream, surrounded by the zombified versions of his friends. This is the moment in the story when Lavi decides that between the two he'd rather be an exorcist than a bookman, if it means protecting his friends rather than watching them die and recording their deaths. So naturally, it's at this point that Lavi turns to face the audience, deciding to be involved in the world rather than just to watch it go by. And the final shot back to Child Lavi reveals that this isn't some massive change in him, but rather an unveiling of something that was always there, just buried. Lena Lee starts out anxious and saddened as she looks down at her hands, remembering that she never wanted to join the Order in the first place and was forced into this life of fighting. The image on the right reinforces this as it shows her being forced back to the Order after she tried to run away again, while the image on the left shows Kamui's arrival at the Order and the lifting of her heart as he cheered her up. That image is quickly replaced with an image of her trapped in Rhodes' dream, reminding us that she's only a bit lighter-hearted now because of Kamui, but that the darkness is still quite present. At this point, she turns away from that panel, looking upward toward the image of her fighting the level 3 when it first appeared. On the left, we see an image of Lena Lee trapped and helpless after her battle with the level 3 left her unable to fight, having to just look on and watch her friends suffer. But by this point, she's completely turned away from that image, looking instead to her defeat of the level 4, at which moment she has accepted her innocence of her own free will because of her determination to never again be powerless when someone she cares about is in trouble. From there's a very nice little cut from her fighting and defeating the level 4 to another level 4 in Morikuma, showing us that the battle is far from over and they've far from won. The next few shots are beautiful and not particularly in need of explaining, as they're more there to highlight the different awesome, amazing characters than to tell any complex story. One shot that I think is worth drawing your attention to is the one of Howard Link in battle, since it shows his determination and his personality, as opposed to his other and more formal shot, which just suggests that he simply is a pawn of Louvellier. Additionally, the action fight scenes shown at the end of the opening aren't just beautiful eye candy, they also have significance to the plot. Both Lavi's and Lena Lee's fight scenes take place in the camps that they were guarding during the Alma Karma arc. Lena Lee's fight scene also isn't just her, but also showcases Timothy. However, he's in his Tsukigami Akuma form, so that only people who have already finished the Phantom Thief G arc will notice this. Kanda's fight scene isn't just with some random Akuma, but is actually with Alma Karma. However, since only Alma's arm is shown, only people who have already gotten a good look at Alma's Akuma form will recognize this for what it is. Then there's the final fight scene of Alan versus the Millennium Earl, which is clearly meant to mirror the fight scenes at the ends of openings 3 and 4 from the original series. But it's a lot more than that. And to talk about it properly, I'm going to have to delve into some serious spoiler territory, and I mean manga spoilers. Any anime-only fans watching this, you've got until the end of this sentence to turn off the video before you get some massive, massive spoilers. Goodbye, and have a nice day. D.Gray-Man has always done an excellent job of foreshadowing things, or putting spoilers in the opening, but in such a way that you won't figure them out in advance, as opposed to certain other anime fairy tales. And D.Gray-Man Hallow is even better at it. D.Gray-Man Hallow has in its opening 2 incredibly spoilery scenes, the ones at the very beginning and very end. For this part, I'm going to be using the real first part of the opening, as opposed to the first part included only in the first episode to keep from spoiling something that was revealed in that episode. And that was Alan becoming a Noah, specifically the 14th. The opening begins with the golden eye of a Noah sinking into Alan's head. The image pans out to show Alan with gray skin and a gold eye just like a Noah, crouching in the corner of an alley. And to most viewers, that is to say all who have not read the manga, that is exactly what they'll see. However, this isn't Alan just hiding in some random alley, oh no. For one thing, the white feathery effect isn't just something caused by Crown Clown, which someone who has only watched the anime might expect. Oh no. That feathering is the innocence of Alan's arm reacting to the presence of the Apocryphos, as he is pursued by the Apocryphos throughout the Searching for AW arc. Additionally, This is not just some random alleyway, but rather is the fateful alleyway where Alan, or should I say Nea, encounters the Millennium Earl, and the truth about the Millennium Earl's identity is revealed. That identity is no other than Alan's old guardian, the now long dead Mana. And this revelation is the key to framing the entire opening. The opening begins with Alan, just before he encounters the Millennium Earl, and just before the audience finds out this truth. Then from there the opening takes a step backward, showing us the members of the Order flashing through the pasts of all of the characters, bringing us from the past back to the present. The arc of the opening and the arc of the show fit together perfectly, as the opening begins not with the current state of affairs or with the exorcists at the beginning of the anime, but rather with Nea's eye, even before we see that it's in Alan's head. And Nea is of course the source of, well, Nea and Mana are the source of the entire story. At the end of the day, all of the plot threads link backward until they reach Nea and Mana, and the slaughter of 35 years ago. Having established Nea's eye and therefore Nea's existence at the very core of the series, the opening then takes us forward 35 years to show us Nea presently in Alan's body. The opening then jumps backward, telling us everything that's happened between the start of the anime and the present. The first clip after the title card is the Black Order members, just as the very beginning of the anime begins with Alan coming to the Black Order. Then, the opening proceeds to give us the backstories of all of the main characters, showing only as far back as the pasts of which the anime has already told us, while leaving that large time gap blank, just as it is currently blank in the canon. Once we've caught up with the story through our current events, mainly the Alma Karma arc, which is alluded to in the final fight scenes with Lena Lee, Konda, and Lavi, we move forward to this scene with Alan fighting the Millennium Earl. At this point, the story jumps backward in the opening. The Alan we see isn't just some random Alan, it's the same Alan that we saw at the very beginning of the title card, bringing open the title card, Alan in Crown Clown surrounded by that yellow glow. Additionally, the Earl seems to have just stepped out of the scene in which he and the other Noah were introduced, as he is still bathed in that purple glow he had when he was looking over their heads. The two come at each other, but this isn't the first time we've seen this combination. This purple versus yellow-white light is the very combination that highlights Alan in his initial appearance as Alan Nea. This specific use of coloring at both the beginning and end of the opening is meant to create a subtle circularity in our minds, but it does a whole lot more than that. The yellow-white light at the beginning is innocence, while the purple glow around Alan is Nea, representing the two powers battling for control of Alan's body, as well as helping the audience to infer that Alan is both Noah and Exorcist, and is made up of both powers. Additionally, this creates a subtle link between the Earl and Nea, considering that their brothers are actually parts of the same whole. This isn't surprising. And the recurrent battles of these two colors at the very beginning and very end of the opening suggests that this is not only what the opening has been building toward, but also what the anime is building toward, a final conflict between Alan and the Millennium Earl, or between Alan and Nea, or between Nea and Mana, or between, well, you get the idea. The anime also takes this moment to remind you that Mana is the Millennium Earl and of the connection there, because it flashes instantly from that scene of Alan fighting the Millennium Earl to another one of Alan and Mana when Alan was a child, and reminding us of the bond that Alan and Mana once shared. Additionally, the juxtaposition of Alan trying to kill the Millennium Earl and Alan walking happily alongside Mana really brings home the emotional stakes both of the opening and the anime, as well as reminding the viewer that in this anime nothing is as it seems, since this appears to be a very innocent image of Mana and Alan walking together when Alan was a child, the snow especially representing innocence. Whereas those who have read the manga will understand the significance of this shot coming directly after one of the Earl, as well as seeing that the footprints in the snow aren't just there to be footprints, but rather represent the long trail of history between Nea and Mana. Think of this scene as the icing on the Feels cupcake. And at this point I'm out of time on this video, so if you want to hear some more of me talking about D.Gray-Man, please head over to my channel and check out my review of the initial series. Please leave a like or a comment to let me know if you enjoyed this video, and remember to check back with my channel in a few weeks once D.Gray-Man Hallow finishes airing for a review of the season. Now then, this is Coriander Stone, and I thank you for watching.